guys, it's Eric G from Around the House, and I am thrilled to announce that our massive back catalog, nearly 1,900 episodes packed with home improvement tips, DIY hacks, and expert advice, is now available for free. Dive into years of inspiration to tackle on your next project. And just a heads up, some podcast players limit how far back you can go. So if you can't find it all, just head straight over to our website, aroundthehouseonline.com, and listen to every episode there. Don't miss out. Start binging today. And thanks for tuning in to Around the House.
Everybody stop what you're doing, please!
When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is no better show on your radio. This is Around the House with Eric G.
Where's the hammer?
From your back fence to the sidewalk, Eric will tell you how to keep it all in tip-top shape while helping you save a buck while doing it. If you like DIY projects, it takes a lot of practice to get good at it, and Eric is here to guide the way.
Is it on the... Go up on the other floor. Somebody go up there and stop the hammering.
All that and more on the fastest 2 hours of home improvement radio.
These are the wrong plans. These are the old plans. Oh.
Welcome to
Stop it!
Around the House with Eric G.
Welcome to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement every single weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric G. Dane Vodder is out on assignment today. Got him working on a special project. Today we've got a full show ahead. Got a lot of stuff going on here in this hour. We're going to be talking kitchen design. What are the basics? Do you going to kind of do that fluff and go, really get that thing brushed up without doing a remodel? Are you trying to put that off another 5 to 7 years? Or are you thinking about redoing that entire kitchen? So today, we're going to use my almost 30 years of kitchen and bath design experience to try to help you understand the best way to tackle this project. And this is going to be, it's October is National Kitchen and Bath Association Kitchen and Bath Month. So this is kind of that month that I really like to kind of hit on some of these things that really can make you get through this process a little bit easier. So if you want to hit the show, if you got questions, give us a call anytime, 971-233-8992, 24/7, no matter when you're listening to the show, on the podcast or the radio show, wherever you're catching it, make sure you give us a call at 971-233-8992, and I will call you back, and we're going to put you in the show. That way, we've got those questions answered for you. We're not going to do the old school radio way where somebody calls up and you're 90 seconds away from the break, and I got to jam out your question in 60 seconds and give you an answer in 30. So these are things that I just don't want to do, and that way I can get that question personally answered for you. That way you can get that solution. 971-233-8992. So let's talk about kitchen and bath a little bit, because when you're dealing with kitchen design, most people only do that once in their lifetime, maybe two. It's something, unless you're really handy and you're doing some house flips, or you're really trying to go that route, where you live in it for a few years, get it cleaned up, and you're upgrading to the next house. Nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about, how do you tackle that kitchen project? So when you're diving in, there's a couple different ways to go. You really have kind of what I call your fluff and buff, where maybe you're painting cabinets, putting in new hardware, new appliances, maybe throwing a new floating floor, just kind of trying to make it last another 6 or 7 years before you tear in and do a complete gut and go. Now, let's step back a little bit. Your average kitchen lasts 15 years. That is what they consider the lifespan of your kitchen as a whole. So people expect out in the industry that after 15 years, it's outdated. It needs, appliances are done. You've got countertops that are outdated. Colors aren't matching. It's all time to go. So let's talk first about, in this segment here, about what you can do to get that dressed up, to maybe buy a little time. So first off, many times people want to sit there and paint those cabinets. Now, painting those cabinets we've talked about before, but I just kind of want to go over this. If you've got oak, white oak, red oak, whichever oak you've got, it's a very open-grained wood, and this rule applies to open grains. You got to be really careful. If you put too much paint on that oak kitchen, the problem is it partially fills in that open grain, and it looks like you just laid plastic over the top of it. So this is where you get into that. You got to be really careful on how you paint that oak. So it's something to think about. So let's talk about painting cabinets for a minute. First off, you got to set your expectations correctly. You need to get the right finish, because that's always what people do. And I'll say this, when you start to paint a kitchen, you want to think about it. You've spent months planning on what color you're going to do. Okay, I'm going to paint it. It's white. Is it a chalk paint? First off, chalk paint. Let's get into that for a minute. If you use a kitchen and you like to cook, chalk paint is not your answer. It's not. It looks really cool on a piece of furniture you don't use a lot, but chalk paint is fairly delicate. That's why when you chalk paint it, most of the companies want you to hit it with a wax afterwards, because that wax is your top coat that's a protectant. But as we all know, wax doesn't do a lot as a protectant. It'll shed water off. It'll do a lot of little things. But wax only goes so far. And in a kitchen environment, there are plenty of things in your kitchen that'll knock that wax right off there. Now you got a problem. So I don't recommend kitchen projects being something that you want to hit with all of that. So just be careful. Don't use a chalk paint in your kitchen. Now, when you get into using the right paint, which I think is here in the Northwest where I live, Miller Paint has some great cabinetry paint. Do your research. Anywhere out in the country, I have used the Valspar stuff that you can get, cabinetry paint, that they sell at Lowe's. I did a segment a couple years back with Morgan, Oregon, using that just to try it out on some furniture. It's done well. It's held up really well, up to some good abuse of myself. So that's something to think about. Now, here's the thing. If you walk into a kitchen and bath retailer, a design firm, even going into the home center, those cabinets that you buy there, or if you've had a friend put them in, let's set those expectations correctly. If you've had that friend that had these pre-made custom cabinets that were, baked on finish, all that stuff came from the factory, that is going to be much more durable than what you'll ever spray on in your home in a kitchen cabinet. And those are fairly delicate cabinets, even when they're baked on finish. So you're going to be spraying a cabinetry grade paint on your cabinets. Rolling's not best. You can get away with it, but if you want the finish right, you rent a sprayer or have a sprayer and spray it. That is still going to dent, scuff, all of those things. That baked on finish you get from a brand new, fresh, out of the factory cabinet, you can't create that inside your home. So just remember that any painted surface you put on there is going to be much more delicate. It's going to show a lot more than one of those baked on finishes. So it's not the end of the world, but just want you to set those expectations correctly. And really, once you've painted it, painting it again ends up being a mess. So you really have kind of one chance to paint this and do it well, because you get too much paint buildup, ends up being a problem. And you don't want to mess with that too much. So this is just one of those things that I really want you to kind of think about a little bit before you dive into this project that you're doing it. Now let's talk about time. Time is a big thing with this. So let me set this expectation for a medium cabinet, right? If you just got a medium-sized kitchen, most of the time with a medium-sized kitchen, you're going to have to sit there and spend most of a weekend prepping. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through, get that really prepped up, which means you got to degrease the entire cabinetry package that you've got. All your cabinets are going to be degreased. You've got to sand them, get them really smooth, get the doors off, drawer fronts off, all that stuff. you're going to get this all ready to go and tack cloth before you go. In many cases, that's an entire weekend, especially if you're filling and putting different door handles on. You want to do that. Now, I want you to go through, and if you're changing door handles, get everything sanded up good, get it filled, put your different size door handles on, because rarely, door handles are so many different sizes, it's odd to actually be able to find a door handle that works with your new style that matches the drilling of the old style. But if you're painting it, who cares? Fill it with some wood Bondo and you're good to go, and drill it where you need to. Now, here's a secret. Get it all prepped, ready to go before you tack cloth it and get it really clean. Drill that new hardware. Make sure it fits. Make sure you got it in the right spot. You won't have to repaint the door again later if you got it in the wrong spot. And you can get those all set up now and not worry about chipping paint and damaging stuff. So that's a good little tip right there. But then you're going to want to get a good paint sprayer, and you're going to go through and get stuff cleaned up and really get it dialed in. Get that painted, get the front painted, let it dry overnight. Get the back painted, maybe get the boxes painted, all that stuff. It's going to take you most of the weekend to get that painted correctly. Let it cure where you can turn it over and do it. You can be doing other stuff around the kitchen, but really this is where that weekend of finishing is what it is. That third weekend is now going to be what I would call clean up and reassembly. You're going to unmask, put your new hardware on, get the doors assembled, all those other things, and do it. Now, one little trick, many times when you're doing drawer hardware for the drawers, that hardware will go all the way through the drawer box itself. So you've got the front, and then it goes through that drawer. So make sure you've got the right size screws for that. And if you're drilling new holes for the hardware, you want to make sure you're catching that drawer box as well. And then, of course, you've got a lot of fun afterwards. All right, when we come back, more of Around the House just as soon as we return.
Hey everybody, it's JT from Barbecue Nation. If you're listening to Around the House, you can also hear Barbecue Nation on this platform. That's Barbecue Nation, where we talk about outdoor cooking and fun.
Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement every weekend. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Eric G. Dane Vodder's out on assignment today, so we're going to be talking in this segment about how to go about that kitchen remodel. How do you plan ahead for that? Most people only do this once, maybe twice in their life. Last segment here, we talked about what to do if you're really going to be doing that kind of fluff and buff kitchen. This segment, we're going to be talking about all those different things that go into a kitchen and bath remodel. First, if you got any questions, give us a call in the studio, 971-233-8992. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you for listening. If you're listening to the radio show, we appreciate you as well. Now, if you want to catch the podcast anytime, make sure that wherever you're listening to that podcast, that you're subscribing to us anywhere you do that, because what that does is that actually notifies you in many cases what that next piece comes up. So it could be the show on the weekends. It could be the midweek special. It could be our Pro Insider for all you contractors out there. And yes, we do a separate podcast for all of you contractors and remodelers out there in the show. Now, if you want to be part of the show, like I said, 971-233-8992, 971-233-8992. Make sure you hit us up on Facebook, which is Around the House with Eric G. But if you want that one-stop shop, head over to AroundTheHouseOnline.com. So you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen, and right now you're not going to get it done in many cases unless you've got stuff sitting there before the holidays. But maybe you're thinking about that new kitchen for 2021. This is your last holidays cooking on it. I'm not doing this. It's done. We've got to fix it. So I want you to do this. Here is my process that I think, as a kitchen and bath designer that's done this for nearly 30 years, what you want to really focus on. So to start out with, I want you to dream. I want you to think about how you want this space to look. Now, are you going to be doing it do you want cabinets that are white? Do you want them painted? Maybe you've got two tones where it's where it's blue and white or blue and silver. Maybe you want to have a really nice cherry kitchen, whatever you're trying to do. If you can figure out in your head before you even chase down the road of designing this, kind of what your basics are. What do you want for appliances? I mean, if you got to get that notepad and paper out there, that yellow legal tablet, get it out and write it out. Okay, you hate stainless steel? No problem. Look at the other options. You hate wood? Look at painted. Vice versa, if you hate painted, look at wood. But I want you to really kind of give some thought into this, what you can do with this. Because there's a lot of things that you can get figured out that'll help you through the design process, where you can go in and meet with your designer and say, okay, I want a white painted shaker kitchen with Carrara marble countertops and the stainless steel appliances, and they can start running with it. You've already made your mind up for that. So get those notes down of what you like and what you don't like. And jump on that laptop, desktop, whatever you're doing, create a folder. I want you to create 2 folders. Pictures that you love of kitchens and pictures that you hate. Maybe there are things that drive you insane. We all have those. That little folder can be just as important as the stuff you do like, because you're now communicating with your designer that these are the no-goes that we're not doing in your space. So that ends up being pretty cool if you can do that correctly. Go through, show those things that are, and you know, it's pretty easy on a laptop, desktop to be able to sit there and put a note in it, whether you're not putting a scratchy or whatever, you know, like using your finger and writing a quick note and circling something, whatever you do. Feel free to edit photos and say, love this, hate this, whatever. Now, as you go through that, now you can start thinking of kind of what your scope of work is. You know, if this is a 5-year-old kitchen that's just, you hate the color, it's one thing. It comes down to building up what you're going to do to fix building code, because building code has changed over the years. You know, some of the things that I want you to think about is every appliance, if you've got a 30-year-old kitchen, this is where this makes a difference. Every appliance has to have its own dedicated circuit for electrical. So think about this. If you've got that 1970s kitchen, 1960s, anything before that, that dishwasher plugged into maybe the garbage disposal circuit and maybe the outlets, or however they did it. Now, you've got to have that dishwasher, that built-in microwave. All those appliances have to be on their own dedicated circuit. So if you're having to do this, I want you to, before you even get into this design, go out and look at your electrical panel. If you've got that pre-80s home, many times you're not going to meet code across the country. Now, there are places that don't follow this, but most places want to have appliances that are on their own dedicated circuit. That way things work correctly. So check your local building code, but I want you to make sure that you go around and see that, because if you walk out to your panel and go, I only have 2 spaces left on my panel and I'm going to need 2 or 3 appliance dedicated circuits, I'm in trouble. That means you might need that new panel, which now adds $3,000 to $6,000 on your budget list. So I want you to think about these things. Get that plan going, and then you'll be able to kind of design this out. But I want you to do this homework before you even get a hold of that designer, because that's a big deal. You're going to save yourself a ton of headaches with all that. So, all right, guys, I want you to stick through here. We're going to be talking more about remodeling here. We got to get through this next segment, which I'm looking forward to. This is and we've got this pre-planned, so it's got to go in here. And then we'll take on this conversation afterwards. So this is going to be great. We're going to be talking with a dad who's trying to dealing with his 2 daughters on how to deal with the internet and how can you manage that. How do you manage that as a parent with school and everything else? We're going to do that just as soon as Around the House returns, and we'll get back into kitchen design.
To make a better day. You know 2 things only get better with time. Women in white.
Hey, this is
Farewell, Angelina.
and you're listening to Around the House with Eric G.
It goes down so smooth. Ooh, it makes me want to pour gold in this glass, 'cause that color red never looks so good, so good. Let's pour gold in this glass, 'cause that color red never looks so good.
Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement every single weekend. Thanks for joining us. Hey, make sure you hit us up on Facebook, Around the House with Eric G, or head over to our website, which is aroundthehouseonline.com. And that's the place where you can find everything around the house. Well, this is kind of an interesting discussion here that I wanted to have because a mutual friend of ours, Amy, introduced me to one of her Xfinity coworkers, David Hardin. He is a single dad, 2 girls, and he's trying to manage his Wi-Fi around his house and has been doing it really well. Welcome to Around the House, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be connected. I'm glad Amy could hook us up together.
Exactly. Well, you've got the proverbial problem. My kids are older now, but I mean, I battled Wi-Fi management with the kids. And, you know, my son was pretty good. My daughter, love her to death, but that was I think that added 10 years to my life expectancy down because of the stresses that I had trying to make sure as a dad to keep everything managed. How are you doing it, man? Because it seems like you're doing it pretty well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And like you said, it is definitely challenging. Your daughter and your son, how far apart or how close in age are they?
Well, not so much yours. I mean, they've got 6 years apart, so getting close. But my son was easy. My daughter, I had to use every piece of technology. You know, she's 19 now, but back when she was in her, 13 to 16 was probably the part that it was just, I was pulling my hair out using the best technology I could find.
Yeah, me too. I've got a 14-year-old daughter, and I've also got a 7-year-old, and their uses for the internet are very different for each other. But it's a juggling act to keep tabs on both of them and to kind of figure out, who's doing what. And, with the distance learning that these kids are doing, especially mine, they're online more than they've ever been before, and so. Having some tools or some practices in place to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your internet experience in your household is something that I've really been gearing up to do. And I've got a couple of things that I do that I think would be beneficial for everybody to at least have some semblance of those practices put in place.
Let's talk about it, brother. Let's talk about it. Because I tell you what, it got to the point with my daughter that I was sitting there looking on my Comcast app that I've got, and I was like, hey, who's logging into the Wi-Fi? What's that? And it was her friend's burner phone that she was using. I was like, what is going on? So it was driving me nuts. I'm curious to hear what your tips are, because you're battling a whole new battle with homeschooling and now and everything else where everything's online.
Definitely. Yeah. One of the first things that I'd recommend is if you have the ability to assign devices to users in your household, that's really what gives you that visibility to know who's doing what and when. There's some tools that Comcast actually has put together as an app that I use. It's called Xfi. And breaking news, they're going to change the name of the app to Xfinity pretty soon. But what it allowed me to do was assign my daughter's MacBook, her cell phone, her Xbox to her. And that way I can tell which device is online and which one she's using. So her social media, pretty much almost all of it goes through her phone. But I can take a single look and see, okay, is she on her MacBook? Is she playing video games? Is she doing her homework like she's supposed to be doing? So having that level of visibility is great.
No kidding.
Another thing is being able to manage the times that people are online. So my youngest, she gets an hour of internet a day. My eldest gets 4 hours, but I loop her classwork into that. So that way she has to make a decision. Am I going to go to class, or am I going to try to do something else? But I can look at the time that she's on, and I know if that MacBook's fired up when she's supposed to be in class, that she's probably doing the right thing.
There you go. Well, signing is big because I did that in my household. And it was interesting because we're now empty nesters now. So Julie, my wife, her 2 kids, we just took the one off to college here, the youngest off to college. And then like 2 weeks before that, her oldest moved out into her own apartment so she can continue going to college and stuff like that here in the Portland area. And right before she moved out, I'm like, what is crushing to her daughter? What's crushing our internet usage here? Come to find out, she was falling asleep to watching high-def videos on YouTube at night, watching 4K videos. And I'm like, why are we using so much internet at night? And sure enough, I could figure out who it was and why it was happening. And it was just as easy as logging onto an app, which, oh my gosh, makes it so much easier.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that, again, 2 different age groups for me, but with my eldest, that screen time at night is something that I try to counteract. And, if she reaches her 4 hours during the day, she usually comes down and she'll say, "Hey, Dad, can you turn my internet back on?" And that's when I pause and we have a little chat about what you're doing on the internet today. Well, did you get your homework done? Did you prioritize what you're supposed to be doing? What sites have you visited? What have you been up to? And so sometimes it's a quick yes or no based on what we've got going on, and sometimes a little bit deeper conversation.
Nice.
But that screen time at night, with that 4K video, that could be a ton of data usage. And so what I've got for her is I've got it so that on school nights, her internet on her iPhone shuts down at a certain time.
Yep.
She can still stream on the TV if she wants to connect to Netflix or whomever, but she's not going to do it through her phone because I don't want her laying in bed on her phone and then not going to sleep when she should be sleeping.
Smart. Good call. I mean, and it's so much different. You're right, because, the teenager gets pulled at a completely different direction than the younger one that's 7. I mean, they're even though they're just a handful of years apart, it's just so different. And so you have to manage those completely differently, because if you were to manage one or the other, you got a kid that's going to be fairly well upset about something not quote unquote being fair.
Oh yeah. And like you said, they're far enough apart that it's a pretty significant difference in regards to how they're using the internet at this time. But even if they were a little bit closer together in age, it's still going to vary somewhat what you're comfortable with and what you're okay with. So another thing I encourage parents to do, and something that I do, is if you have any parental control software or things that you can turn on easily that are age group appropriate, it's not going to be 100% effective as far as filtering that content. But I imagine that you've seen, a YouTube video that's very kid-friendly, and then it parlays into one that's not as kid-friendly.
You cannot rely on their filters, man. You just can't.
No, exactly. So it's a nice starting point. Again, there's not any tool out there that's 100% safe, but the more of that stuff that you can enable and do fairly easily, the better experience overall I think that your kids are going to have, and that we as parents can have managing the Wi-Fi in our own household.
Yeah, it's smart. And what I did too as a parent is I actually went through and adjusted those times, because on school nights it would be a different time for my teenager than it was on Friday night. And I could mess around with things and get it more dialed in, which really helped. We did that with Julie's oldest 2 here the last couple of years at the house here, because they were doing high school and all that stuff, and we were using that app, and it made life significantly easier. And quite frankly, it kept us from going over on our data too much, because we could control it, and we didn't have 100 movies getting played in 4K a month and blowing through our data rates.
Oh yeah, and one of the things that you brought up there with the separate times for like school nights and weekends definitely makes sense. I do the same thing, but it's so much less of a battle for me personally. Having the app manage it and adjusting it there, because then it's kind of like one and done, versus having that daily conversation, going upstairs at 10 o'clock at night, okay, make sure you're off your phone. No, after a while, when you have those times set, it just becomes something that they're used to and they're accustomed to. And yeah, we can increase the time they can be online on the weekends and stuff, but especially with trying to build a schedule and a rhythm when they're doing distance learning, being able to manage, how late or how early they're off their device is extremely helpful because, for my eldest, she still thinks it's summer up there, man. She'd stay up till 4 every night and try to sleep in till noon if she could.
I felt so bad. I'd set mine and I kind of set it and forget it, which works great, but I set it and forgot it. And I mean, the girls were graduated from high school and middle of summertime, and one of them comes up and goes, "Hey, can we open up that internet a little bit past 10 o'clock?" And I'm like, oops, my bad.
Yep. Yeah.
It worked though, but but that's how easy it is. You can just kind of set it. And I think the most important part of this whole thing, on top of using technology, it's those daily check-ins, just to see, where things are going and keeping an eye on stuff, I mean, that's the tough part of parenting is getting in that fine line of doing a solid parenting job and making sure that they're safe, but not, making them feel like that they're getting breathed on too heavy and under this heavy thumb. And it sounds like you've kind of found that nice sweet spot.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that, everybody has different levels of comfort with technology. And so you really have to find whatever the simplest tool is that helps you manage your house to a point that you're comfortable knowing that your kids are having a what you consider a safe internet experience. And so, like you said, those daily check-ins, sometimes, again, it's a simple, can I have more internet? No, you cannot today. Or sometimes it's a yes. But a lot of times I use that to pull back and say, what have you been doing online today? Let's take a look, and with YouTube and some of the other stuff that's out there, it's really easy to go into their history or see what they've subscribed to. And those are things that I recommend people do. But again, the least amount of effort that you have to put in is probably going to be the best thing long term, because you want something that's sustainable and you want something that's predictable so that everybody becomes accustomed to those checks and balances you have in your household.
And it's just good habits for them to learn as growing into adults anyway, to learn what those balances are.
Yep, most definitely.
All right, David. Hey, man, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And, the app we're talking about here is Comcast's Xfi app, and you said that's going to be changing to Xfinity, huh?
Yeah, we'll change over the next couple of weeks. What we're doing is trying to put a lot of our stuff under one roof, and part of it's just by simplifying the naming convention there. So, yeah, actually, at 9:30 sometime today in at least one of the app stores, it'll transition over to Xfinity. And over the next 2 weeks or so, that's what it should be called in all the app stores.
All right, man. I appreciate it. And, that's what I use at my home. And all you people out there that are Comcast people out there, make sure you're using that app because it makes life so much better.
Yeah, it's much easier.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Well, I hope that gives you some ideas and some just inspiration for all you parents out there. I mean, I've dealt with this with my kids. Of course, they're grown and out of the house and all that stuff. But these are things that, man, it's a struggle. And when your kids are home trying to do online schooling, it's even more of a struggle. So I wanted to give you guys some inspiration today, and that's where it's going to fit in the show today. So let's get back to, and again, thanks, David, for coming on the show. It's just amazing that we could get that insight. But let's get back to kitchen design here, because this is one of those things that I think that it's troublesome for a lot of people, and they struggle. And more importantly, they struggle trying to communicate with the contractor. So we talked about earlier on in the show here that, getting through that process, setting those expectations. So I want you to do all your homework like we discussed, and make sure you kind of know what you want going into this. Then, to be honest, I would find next my designer that I'm going to work with. To be honest, and I want you to just call a contractor up unless they are a design build firm that can handle you start to finish. I want you to find that designer that fits what you're doing. There are designers that specialize and they do things that are really good in certain genres of style. You have people that are super great at contemporary, mid-century modern, but if you get into some old world, provincial, whatever you want to call it out there, you got to be careful because those sometimes don't cross over well. Some designers do really well at what they like. I mean, look at Chip and Joanna Gaines. Do you see them doing some very, Federalist type renovation? Heck no. It's all this modern farmhouse. That's what they do, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But I want you to find that designer that you personally fit with that does a beautiful job. How do you find a designer for your kitchen? You can head over to nkba.org, talk to them. They have a great resource of certified kitchen designers. You will find no better resource than heading over to nkba.org and finding that resource. It's going to be great. That's what you need to do. And that will get you lined up to find that right designer. Then start working on that contractor, because that designer and that contractor need to work flawlessly together. If you find the designer and they have some contractors they work with, pay attention, because they have an outstanding relationship, most likely, and it's going to make your project so much easier. So many people go, I want to do a kitchen, and they jump in and start looking at contractors. I don't think that's always the best way. Now, there are some that work well. I work with REF Construction in Portland. I've worked with them for years. I was his designer. And a lot of people would call up, and he would bring the designer out, which was me, and we would work together and had a flawless system for years of working together. Now, remodeling is always filled with trials and tribulations. It's not going to go smoothly. It is known as one of the most stressful things that you can put your relationship through as a married couple. So think about that. That is one of the most stressful relationship problems. So I want you to be mentally prepared for this. Outside of all the other design tips I'm going to give you, this is the big one. You need to come in with a positive attitude. Your partner needs to come in with a positive attitude. And you are going to have to roll with the punches. Now, if you've got a great contractor, they'll finish on time. But you don't know of the little things that happen. Great example, I popped open my ceiling to get rid of a vent in an area that didn't need to be happening, just to close it up. I found some, ant damage from carpenter ants that I'm going to have to repair. I didn't plan on doing that. Now I got to open up much more ceiling before I fix that drywall. But that's the thing. You are going to find, in many times, things that are problems. And you want to fix those. Good contractor's going to do that. And that's the key to this. There's no way in a 1 hour show, even a half hour show or 2 hour show, I'm going to give you all the tips to this. But this part is the biggest part of your whole remodel. I want you to think about that really mental game going in this. Because you know something? You're smarter if you're not in that mental game, especially with 2020, to make sure that you can be in that mental game where you can handle contractors, their people, walking in and out of your house for 6 or 8 weeks. More around the house just as soon as we return.
Hey everyone, this is Jim, producer of the Around the House Show podcast. If you're listening right now, you already know we bring you the best tips, tricks, and expert advice to fix, upgrade, and maintain everything in your home without the headaches or the huge bills. But if you're catching us on the radio or borrowing a friend's phone, you're missing out on new episodes dropping straight to your device every week. So do yourself a favor, hit pause for just a second, grab your phone, and subscribe to Around the House Show on your favorite podcast player. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or wherever you listen. It's completely free, and you'll never miss an episode again. Thanks for supporting the show. Now let's get back to making your house work for you.